Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to cover an article by Nerdist.com that says The Last Jedi didn't break Star Wars, it saved it. Yes, my title was not lying. Apparently The Last Jedi saved us. Let's explore that, shall we? Now, the article in question is done by Miss Lindsay Romaine and was published on December 11th, 2019. So without further ado, let's get into this. It says, follow Nerdist to stay up to date. Yeah, no thanks. I'm good. I think we're all good on that account. Will a week ever go by when we aren't talking about The Last Jedi, the 8th film in the main Star Wars saga, which came out 2 years ago? Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm recording this video approximately 2 years after The Last Jedi came out, as a matter of fact. So, well done. Happy birthday to The Last Jedi, I guess. 2 years. For 2 years, the reputation of Star Wars has been firmly in the toilet. What a time to celebrate. And yet, it is routinely the subject of mass hysteria on social media. No, stop right there. It is the topic of discussion for a lot of media. It is a topic of discussion for a lot of YouTubers, a lot of Twitter users, a lot of Discord users. Star Wars as a whole is a very important IP, possibly the most important IP in Western media. So, of course, with every new release, not just The Last Jedi, it is the prime topic for discussion. What did you think of the last Star Wars episode? Did you think the characters were good? Did you think the characters were bad? Did you think the fights were good? Did you think the fights were bad? Did you think the lore was consistent? Did they break any rules? Did this make sense? Did that make sense? So on and so forth. The mass hysteria surrounding The Last Jedi died out within the first 3 months, okay? Ever since then, people have been talking about it, but that's not unheard of for a Star Wars movie. In fact, it is expected. Star Wars, again, is very, very important to Western culture. So don't paint people discussing The Last Jedi in the week leading up to the next episode as mass social media hysteria. Fuck off. Is it overrated or underrated? No, it is neither of those things. It is absolutely abysmal, alright? It is certainly not underrated, and it is certainly not overrated. Everybody, or close to everybody, despises this movie. This movie has aged terribly. What once was polarizing is now firmly hated by the majority of people. Did writer/director Rian Johnson break the franchise or shatter blockbuster storytelling boundaries? He absolutely ass-fucked the franchise, alright? And he didn't shatter anything. He shattered boring us to death with Subversion. Subversion was boring, when Subversion is supposed to excite us and wow us. But no, his Subversions bored us, betrayed us, soured so many storytelling possibilities just to give us something we never in a million years would have dreamed of guessing because it was the dumbest fucking outcome possible. Was it a healthy thing for the fandom or a sign that it's beyond repair? Alright, now, I'm unclear right now as to what you're trying to label here. Is it the fandom that's beyond repair, or is it the franchise? You need to be clear of how you write shit, because you may have just insulted millions of people, Miss Lindsay Romaine. And no, it's not beyond repair, we just want good stories. I'll admit, I'm a Lucas fanboy, but hey, if Disney can make a good fan fiction, sign me the fuck up. I liked Rogue One, and I'm loving Jedi Fallen Order. So they can have story input for good fan fictions. The Mandalorian, which I was initially skeptical of, I'm starting to really enjoy. Granted, Episode 5 had its dumb fuckery, but it's certainly the best thing to come out of Star Wars media in a long time. Littered with folks who don't know what they want, and bolstered by a company that doesn't understand its power. No, again, fans do know what they want. Stop trying to paint them as anything other than that. And it is bolstered by a company that doesn't understand its own power. Or rather, the power it has over this IP in particular. It possesses something it doesn't understand because it didn't build it, didn't create it, didn't put the work in. It is trying to profit and poach from its inspirations rather than pay homage to it. The first one tried to, shamelessly mind you, retread A New Hope in every main plotline imaginable. Every main plotline that A New Hope possessed, The Force Awakens had it shoved in. It was the exact same film with a few different skin colors and some sort of romance that had good chemistry between the two main protagonists. But beyond that, it was the same movie. The Last Jedi, on the other hand, did a complete 180. It didn't just, it didn't poach. Oh, it absolutely did poach, but it did so in a way that was also shameless, whilst also, I mean, The Force Awakens at the very least still tried to give fans something they can latch onto, something that they can enjoy, even if it wasn't original. The Last Jedi scrapped all that and made all of its decisions in spite of the fans, which is why it was so hated. And now the Rise of Skywalker doesn't know what it wants to be. All the interesting story threads were closed off, dead-ended by Rian Johnson. The Force Awakens drove a lot of people off, and The Last Jedi drove even more people off, and they drove them away for separate reasons. One, because it shamelessly poached. The other, because it poached, but it also insulted everybody. It did things differently as well. Don't get me wrong, The Last Jedi did try some new things, but the way it just completely disregarded the rules and the laws of the universe was absolutely unforgivable, in my opinion. And now, what is The Rise of Skywalker going to be? Is it going to be something that tries to bring everything together and appease the fans, or does it try and escalate things to an even higher stake, which, according to the leaks, is exactly what they're trying to do? They're trying to make things copy and pasted, but times 10, raising the stakes and further throwing the story and the universe in play out of whack. So yeah, Disney doesn't understand it at all. They don't understand what they possess. The release of The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the episodic franchise, is a mere week away, and with it comes another refresh on The Last Jedi discourse. But this time, a lot of it is coming from the Star Wars cast members and creatives. In a recent New York Times profile, director J.J. Abrams, who kicked off the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens and returns for Rise, spoke of the divisive Jedi. That's not a joke that landed. I'm sorry, Miss Lindsay Romaine, but you got to work on your comedy. It's a bit of a meta approach to the story, he told the paper. I don't think people go to Star Wars to be told this doesn't matter. Okay, now, that was kind of dumb for him to say. The meta approach to the story, I can only assume he's trying to listen and answer fan criticism, and that's what's going to influence the story. Otherwise, I don't know what he means by meta approach. He says, I don't think Star Wars people go to Star Wars to be told this doesn't matter. Well, if you mean, if you're talking about The Last Jedi saying that, hey, Rey's parents don't matter. Hey, the rules of the Force don't matter. Hey, world building doesn't matter. Hey, politics matter. Not Star Wars, but politics and capitalism, anti-capitalism matters. Well, then, yeah, Star Wars fans don't go for that. They go to be valued as fans and shown something new within the confines of the rule the universe presents. Elsewhere, actors Daisy Ridley and John Boyega expressed relief that Abrams was back. In the Times profile, Ridley said she cried at the news that he'd returned, because apparently J.J. Abrams provides a lot of safety on set. Boyega had a more pointed reaction. Even as a normal person in the audience, I wanted to see where that story was going, he said, referring to the story Abrams set up in The Force Awakens. And that was, in his opinion, thrown for a loop in Jedi. Bravo. Boyega, you're fucking fantastic, dude. You've finally come around. You've stopped with the shilling. I guess your contracts have been signed. You're in the clear. No more towing the company line. You're finally speaking your mind. Well done. In a separate interview with Hypebeast, Boyega said he disagreed with a lot of the choices in The Last Jedi, and then he said the movie felt iffy to him. Well, that was pre-release, so I can only imagine how he feels about it now. But you know what? Mark Hamill said the same thing from day one. Before the film released, he tried to warn us, and now, well, turns out that Boyega felt exactly the same. I tip my hat to you, John Boyega. Abrams and the actors are certainly entitled to their opinions. Yes, they are, Lindsay. They are very entitled. They have a right to be because they worked on the set. They have first-hand knowledge of what happens on set, behind the scenes, what decisions are made, who makes them, why they were made, and who better than them to tell us, right? Now, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but their opinion carries so much more merit, especially when they aren't lying, that we need to take it. We need to value it. If John Boyega, someone who had a character to play, who had a good idea of where that character was going, thanks to J.J. Abrams, who created the character, and wanted to propel him forward in his story, felt iffy about the decisions that were made for that character by Rian Johnson, then yeah, I am inclined to agree with him. The same way Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, was also thrown for a loop in a very iffy set of circumstances based on the decisions from Johnson himself, who inherited the character. He did not create the character. But the specific way these quotes are angled seem intentional on the eve of The Rise of Skywalker. They feel like another one of Disney's controlled marketing narratives to both have their Star Wars cake and eat it too. Are you trying to say Disney wants to prop up The Last Jedi whilst simultaneously running it into the ground to prop up The Rise of Skywalker? I don't know if Disney are that dumb, but I mean, to run the Last Jedi into the ground would be a wise move at this point, even though it sounds like The Rise of Skywalker is going to be infinitely worse. So, they're a mess, Disney. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just know that The Last Jedi was terrible and that they need to fix it. But, I think they put their faith in the wrong man with J.J. Abrams. The Force Awakens marketing put a lot of emphasis on the film's use of real sets and practical effects, distinguishing it from George Lucas's prequel trilogy whilst quietly throwing it under the bus. Yeah, alright, let's tackle this one, shall we? Yeah, the reason why it emphasized the real sets and practical effects to death is because of the incessant, ridiculous, whiny internet bitches who fucking ran the prequels into the ground and were jerking off at the prospect of J.J. Abrams coming to direct Star Wars. The prequels were using experimental technology. They didn't even know if the CGI was going to work. They accomplished what they did. The digital feats they accomplished were in late 1990s to early 2000s. And what they accomplished was simply marvelous. Industrial Light and Magic and George Lucas's vision achieved wonders. And it was glorious. I didn't need to see Frank Oz return after 30 years, shove his hand up a puppet's ass in The Last Jedi and cast a CGI lightning bolt down to a tree in order to enjoy my fucking movie. And the people who jerked off to that, well, honestly, call me whatever you want. I don't think their opinion on anything fucking matters. Screw them. If their idea of practical effects is that, well, I'll take my CGI, thanks. Fucking bring on Jar Jar and the fucking Gungans, as far as I'm concerned. Cleanse this Disney nightmare. A making-of documentary on the film's Blu-ray never once mentions Harrison Ford's unfortunate on-set accident, that derailed the production for months and forced major rewrites. The non-saga Star Wars films all faced serious behind-the-scenes troubles that were promptly swept under the rug. The Disney era of Star Wars, like most things Disney, prefers the denial approach to controversy. Reference it subtly, if at all, and move on. Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me at all, and yeah, I've heard numerous references. The production behind-the-scenes footage for the prequels, which is a fucking very enjoyable watch, mind you. I highly suggest going back to watch behind-the-scenes footage of the prequels. It shows the production, but it also shows the setbacks. Whereas the Disney behind-the-scenes footage is almost like a Disneyland parody. Everything's happy, lolly, fucking da. There's no negative things for how the production was made. They just try to paint this happy-go-lucky fucking picture for the audience and try to make it seem like the most wonderful place to work and the most wonderful thing that ever happened in the history of mankind. You just look at all the marketing they've done for The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars is amazing. Star Wars is a phenomenon. I remember when I first saw Star Wars. And basically just trying to milk any and all possible fan nostalgia and sentimentality out of customers. They don't see an audience, they see customers. Trying to sap that out of customers to allow their movie to break even. So, I'm inclined to agree with that. The marketing for The Rise of Skywalker is a prime example. Boilerplate answers from cast and crew during press interviews for The Rise of Skywalker maintain another narrative that The Last Jedi didn't derail Abrams' master plan, but the choices weren't ones that he'd make. Yeah, that's bullshit. Rian completely fucked things up, and to suggest otherwise is dishonesty in its most classic form. The repeated adage that Episode 9 is an ensemble piece emphasizing the relationship between Rey, Finn, and Poe feels like a backhanded dig at Jedi, which kept the trio apart. It was hard for all of us because we were separated, Boyega told Hype Beast, on filming The Last Jedi. Yeah, everyone was split up. There was no character development between the characters to gravitate them towards one another. Granted, Finn already had a pre-existing relationship between him and Rey and him and Poe, but Rey and Poe, which I'm pretty sure they're going to go with that love angle, Rey and Poe didn't meet until the very end of The Last Jedi. That was their first scene with each other, and it lasted 10 seconds in 2 movies. Finn and Rey spent an entire movie apart, absolutely throwing up a fucking Great Wall of China in front of their character development with one another and their chemistry. Nothing was accomplished. Rose Tico was a thing, but that went nowhere. And yeah, it's just fucking, it was a waste. That's the best way I can summarize The Last Jedi. It was a total waste. It's a fair point. The Rise of Skywalker marks the first time the three main heroes will interact as a core group. Yep, and they're trying to sell it as Han, Luke, and Leia, even though Han, Luke, and Leia had 3 movies to grow accustomed to one another and build with one another. They built on their relationships with each other. They went through adventures. They went through hardships. They suffered. They triumphed together. And they did it over the course of 3 movies, whereas, well, these 3, they fucking haven't, have they? But that isn't the fault of The Last Jedi or Rian Johnson. And framing it as such feels misguided. No, framing it as such would be fucking accurate. Don't deny it. The Force Awakens also kept those characters apart. No, absolutely not. No, The Force Awakens introduced those characters. The way these characters met was through major convenience, mind you. But what do you want? Like fucking Rey starts off on one side of the galaxy, Boyega starts off on another side, and Poe starts off on another side of the galaxy. Leia's on another side of the galaxy, Han somewhere else. It's a miracle, and through very fucking lazy writing, mind you, that they met at all. But the characters were certainly brought together, and by all rights, Rey should have met Poe at the end of The Force Awakens, even if it was off screen. Not everything has to be on screen. They could have started The Last Jedi with Rey and Poe talking as if they knew one another, like a time jump. I'd assume they would have met, and no one would have had a problem with it. But no, their official meeting has to be at the end of The Last Jedi, and that's just fucking retarded. Because even in the novelization of The Force Awakens, you'll find that Rey met Poe. I don't care what anyone says. They've never functioned as a trio or been set up as one. Yes, they absolutely were set up as a trio. It's pretty goddamn obvious. At the end of The Force Awakens, they were our 3 main players. Rian Johnson inherited a host of cliffhangers and half-finished arcs. Yes, and he ran them all into the ground. Thank you for reminding me of that. The Last Jedi that Abrams teed up in The Force Awakens, Abrams separated Rey from the main group. Yes, so he could go and train with Luke Skywalker. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would have stayed separated for the entire runtime of the movie. Teased and obfuscated? I don't know that word. Her lineage. Yeah, and what was done with it? Nothing! Nothing at all. Left Finn in a coma without a pledge to the Resistance. Yeah, he wasn't pledged to the Resistance, so why the fuck did Rose taser him when he tried to leave? Jesus, man, your ignorance is just dumbfounding to me, Lindsay Romaine. Never set up the state of the galaxy post Return of the Jedi. Yes, alright, I'll give you a point there. Abrams did a very sloppy job of setting up the galaxy post Return of the Jedi. He just hit the reset button, that's it. As much that The Force Awakens got wrong, it did do a few things right. And that was at least introduce us to these characters. Granted, these characters needed a lot of work. But you can't say that they didn't introduce us to the characters. The state of the galaxy was very confusing and sloppy, and quite frankly insulting. As soon as I saw Luke Skywalker has vanished on the crawl, I was like, okay, well, when the fuck is Luke getting on screen? And then the credits happened, and I was pissed. Plopped Snoke into the plot without any context, and put Luke into isolation. Well, I'm inclined to agree with you here too. Snoke did come out of nowhere, though his backstory could have been very interesting if explained at all, and explained well. And Luke, I never believed Luke would have gone into isolation. The circumstances behind it that Rian clued us in on were just fucking awful. I couldn't imagine a worse story and a bigger betrayal to the character of Luke Skywalker. Luke, quote unquote, Luke felt responsible, Han says, of Luke's disappearance in The Force Awakens. He just walked away from everything. Yeah, but you know what? We could have actually seen a nuanced and in-depth story behind it that would have cleared up all of our concerns and would have given justification to that. Johnson's film took all of those dangling threads and weaved them into a beautiful story, one that demonstrably provoked a fandom a little too obsessed with idol worshipping. Wow, way to give people the middle finger, you clueless cunt. It didn't smear the legacy of characters so much as it deepened and matured them. Wow, are you grasping at straws to justify this shit film, you moronic, journalistic bimbo? It made them better. Now, well, delude yourself, honey. It methodically made each and every single character shit. The good and the meh were all turned to shit. Leia's loss of faith and Luke's restoration of that hope for her and her galaxy cracked open a universe of possibility. What are you talking about? Leia didn't lose any faith. She had faith this whole time. Luke is the one who lost faith for some reason. And yeah, he gave the Resistance hope, but at what cost? They were dead in the water. They had no money. They were down to like 12 people, and the systematic sequence of events that occurred to lead them there were just dumbfounding. Anyway, she goes on to say, yeah, cracked open a universe of possibility, one that undercut the notion that the Force makes you inherently important, and made Star Wars even more for everyone than originally envisioned. Yeah, okay, so in George Lucas's attempt to ground the Force, to explain why only certain people can become Jedi and only certain people can use it in such a manner, Disney are like, hey, everyone can use it. You know, Rey's sensitive because reasons. Finn can probably use it because reasons. Fucking children can use it effortlessly without training because reasons. Way to give it a middle finger to the lore of Star Wars introduced in The Phantom Menace with the midichlorians. Midichlorians, I don't give a shit if you don't like them. They're there and they make sense. So go fuck yourself if it fucking threw a cloud over your fucking Boba Fett pajama 2-year-old fucking fantasy you had back in 1977 or 1980 about picking up a fucking saber and moving rocks with your fucking hand. Sorry, when I think about people running the prequels into the ground, I just remember the kind of people that they were. I honestly think the people who made those ridiculous comments against the midichlorians were just, they just need, I don't even listen to them. I mean, I've listened to them enough, I just don't take them seriously because I don't think they deserve to be taken seriously. You know, what level of stupidity do you have to disregard the midichlorians in order to, you know, push this fan fiction narrative that everyone can use the Force? It's just fucking retarded. Abrams critiquing the meta qualities of The Last Jedi feels backward in a few vital ways. First, it insinuates that The Force Awakens wasn't meta, even though it's literally the story of a new generation of Luke Skywalker worshipping rebel wannabes implanted into a fantasy adventure stocked with recognizable characters and totems. That is about as metatextual as it gets. Honestly, that's not bad. If you're calling Abrams a hypocrite saying that, you know, his story wasn't meta, I'm inclined to agree. And I'll cut you some slack there. The Force Awakens absolutely was meta and it was very derivative. But it didn't insult the fans to the same degree that The Last Jedi did. Okay, so if you're trying to deflect Abrams' comments back into himself, yeah, he's a bit of a hypocrite. And he lacks a lot of self-awareness. But it doesn't inherently make The Last Jedi good or original on its own. And it doesn't make it revolutionary either, okay? It doesn't negate all of the criticism, and it doesn't negate the fact that it is very meta in its own as well. It also suggests that Johnson somehow compromised or undermined Abrams' own vague world-building when he never made clearly defined choices in the first place. He outlined a trilogy, walked away, he returned with a simmering wave of internet vitriol that could either be eradicated or weaponized to sell the next product. Yes, The Force Awakens did have very vague building. It's one of the movie's biggest flaws. He did make very defined choices in the first place, and he outlined a trilogy that Johnson did not abide by. Abrams planted the seeds, and Johnson was supposed to take the story forward. He did not take the story forward. He brought the story back down so he could tell his own story. Do you see how that works? And yes, with the fan base the way it is now, with the hate for The Last Jedi and the pessimistic speculation for the rise of Skywalker, there is room to take advantage of it, or, well, to not give a shit and just point the finger at the fans and insult them even more, but it ain't going to do Disney any favors, so I think weaponizing it as best they can would be the smart move, but I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're genuinely speaking their minds. The Times comments are soft enough that you can read them both ways, but the disappointing aspect comes from the coded commentary and that the things left unsaid. None of the promotion contends with the truly vile things happening in the fandom. Their own co-star, Kelly Marie Tran, was bullied off social media, oh, she has this highlighted too, and publicly derided by so-called fans after The Last Jedi. Okay, fuck yourself. Stop trying to push that narrative. It was never confirmed. She said she blamed the media for getting her off social media because she wanted some privacy, and she never attacked the fans. And I firmly, as a fan of Star Wars, or a former fan at this point, I really like Kelly Marie Tran. I think she conducts herself with class, and I do pity any and all possible personal harassment she may have obtained because of her character in The Last Jedi. But make no mistake, that's a very, very, very small and fucking psychopathic minority. Don't lump the rest, don't lump the majority in with those cunts, alright? That's the cheapest shot the media could fucking take at the fans. The Last Jedi, Boyega spent most of his screen time with Tran, so his vocal dissatisfaction with the group separation sounds like an added dig at her, a way to validate those bad fans, mean-spirited rants, even if it's unintentional. Likewise, others have been on the receiving end of targeted hate. Death threats, rage, here we go, blah blah. Death threats, rage campaigns, personal attacks for simply liking things about The Last Jedi and expressing that fandom on. Fuck yourself. Get stuffed. This happens for, first of all, people are fucking crazy, alright? It's just a fact of life and it's part of the internet. If you can't deal with it, get off. Secondly, this happens for every fan base and anything, just about anything that people disagree on with passionate fans, alright? Why is this tied to only... why are you using this to protect The Last Jedi or stick up for The Last Jedi? It's retarded. Okay? Why don't you use this to stick up for fucking Twilight? Or why don't you use it to stick up for... what was another thing that polarized? Jurassic World. Hobbs and Shaw. Fucking Game of Thrones. I'm sure people were told similar death threats, allegedly, for liking Game of Thrones Season 8. Or disliking it, and then you have the people who defend Season 8 trying to lash out at the haters. So, don't you dare go there. Although, you're a journalist for Nerdist.com, why would I expect anything less? No one is saying dissent is a bad thing. I know, that's what you're saying. You're saying dissent is a bad thing. Stop it. Healthy debate is necessary, and that's what's been happening. So why are you trying to paint it as mass fucking hysteria? You disingenuous bitch. The actors don't have to love the movies they star in, but it's all about presentation. Loading a New York Times profile with coded disses at The Last Jedi a week before The Rise of Skywalker comes out isn't even a smart way to sell your movie. It makes the entire franchise look retroactively weaker. Well, I think trying to distance themselves from The Last Jedi or from Star Wars as a whole, if that's what the actors are doing, is a very smart thing because, well, for one, they won't cop anymore. Well, the fans won't attack them for shamelessly shilling the movie anymore. And two, if they're genuinely displeased with what they had to go through, they have every right to vent their frustrations as the fans do, you dummy. And I say, good on them. Distance yourself from Star Wars. Jump on a different train and let your careers flourish. Daisy, Oscar, John Boyega, just fucking go for it. If you hate The Last Jedi, I'd be very eager to hear what you have to say. And it sets up major questions about what the sequel trilogy is even about. Oh, we've had those questions for a long time, and none of those, absolutely fucking none, have been answered. Matter of fact, a lot of them were given, well, I suppose they were answered, a lot of them were answered in The Last Jedi, but to no satisfaction for the fans, because guess what? You got a trilogy. You set some shit up in The Force Awakens. You have all these questions. You cut all those questions off in the second movie. And now you have a third movie dead in the water. What the fuck do? You come up with some contrived bullshit. Try and work around a story for the third piece of the puzzle. And then just pray to God it lands on its feet financially. And then you just get the fuck away from it. Because the sequel trilogy had no plan. It had no direction. It had no cohesiveness or consistency whatsoever, and it's about money. That's all it is at this point. It's about money. It ain't about the fans. It ain't about telling stories. It's just about, hey, let's get the fuck out, make our fucking money back, cut our losses, but don't acknowledge that we fucked up because, well, I mean, that's the most genuine thing we could do at this point is just say, hey, we're sorry we fucked up. Sorry we treated you with such disrespect. Sorry we fucked up your franchise. And sorry to George Lucas for running his IP into the ground. Sorry, did I just go on a massive tangent there? Jesus, I'm sorry. That's why I made a second channel to make my rant videos. Anyway, yeah, so basically, yeah, no one knows. We have all these questions about what this fucking trilogy is. The answers we got weren't satisfying and honestly weren't really answers at all. There was a lot more to be explained. but Rian Johnson just didn't care to. And now what it looks like the Rise of Skywalker, the direction it's taking, who fucking knows? But it ain't gonna bring any kind of decent closure to this butt-fucked trilogy. Will The Rise of Skywalker feel like a real movie or just a checklist of ways to cater to backlash? Will it walk back to the important themes of The Last Jedi? Oh, God. Yeah, that's all that fucking matters, right? Is the themes. It's all about the themes, right? It doesn't matter if you make a puppet spawn fucking lightning from the sky. Lightning, which is the power of the polar opposite side of the puppet's faction, and the fact that the puppet itself is a fucking ghost. But no, there's a theme there, so, you know, that doesn't matter. And will it be a checklist of ways to cater to backlash? Honestly, given the fucking leaks for the movie, and seeing how fucking accurate they seem to be with evidence from behind the scenes, I don't think they're catering to any backlash. I think they're just doing what the fuck they want. And it's going to be an absolute dumpster fire. Especially Rey's realization that legacy doesn't define her just to satisfy some quota. Oh, fuck you. Just fuck you. I gotta skip ahead. This is driving me crazy. Is Palpatine back just to woo the fans uncomfortable with a more challenging villain like Kylo? What? Palpatine is back just to fucking sell tickets. He's dead. He's dead. Palpatine is fucking dead. And they brought him back to sell tickets. He's there as a punching bag for Rey just to push some bullshit political fucking agenda. And he's gonna, that whole premise of bringing Palpatine back is going to be the last final insult and middle finger to fans of the original trilogy and the prequels as a whole. We don't give a shit about Kylo. That shirtless, bitch whiny, bipolar motherfucker is about as threatening as a fucking kitty cat in a fucking sombrero. Fuck Kylo, fuck Rey, and fuck Reylo. It's impossible to say without seeing it, and it's impossible to know what the future of Star Wars will be, regardless of how the film plays out. The smart play for Disney is to listen to the wisdom put forth in The Last Jedi about how to rebuild to make something new for the next generation of could-be fans. Yeah, no. The smartest thing to do for Disney is to bury this series of 3 abortions into the dirt and start fresh. Whatever wisdom you thought was in The Last Jedi is how to get people to fucking hate you, how to lose money, and how to fucking just wreck a beautiful multiple decade old story with absolutely no care to what made it great in the first place, no care to following rules, and no respect to what came before and the characters in play, or its universe. So yeah, that's the wisdom that The Last Jedi showed us, and it can go fuck itself. Something less obsessed with idols of the past than the awe and intrigue of worlds yet discovered. We are what they grow beyond, Yoda tells Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. That is the true burden of all masters. It's time for Star Wars to grow beyond. Fuck you. Lindsay Romain, you out of touch cunt. Fuck yourself. Alright? Stop trying to paint this as Star Wars needs to grow beyond. Star Wars was always progressing. Star Wars was always fresh, and Star Wars always had people coming back. George Lucas created something truly special, and he looked after it, care took for it for 30 fucking years. Disney had its mitts on it for 5 years. Alright? And in the span of 2 years, from the launch of The Force Awakens to the launch of The Last Jedi, systematically fucking ruined it. Alright? And it's not because they tried to grow beyond. They tried to bury the past and try to slap a Disney label on Star Wars, so that's all that fans will remember. As this is Star Wars now, and it may as well have been Disney who created it. Fuck the past. We'll profit from the past, but we'll make a new, diverse, fucking bitch-soaked, Disneyfied, fuckly future for this once great organic vision and this once amazing, unique, and truly special IP. Sorry, now I'm just rambling, but that's the end of the article, and fucking hell, what an absolute cunt. I'm so glad this article was over. Sorry for the length. I know I go on a bit of a tangent, and I need to, work on composing myself, but this article just made me so fucking infuriated. And, Thanks to all my patrons and subscribe stars. You guys are phenomenal. I appreciate your support as always. If you'd like to support the channel with a monthly donation, you can check out the links for Patreon and subscribe star in the links below in the description. You can also find more Star Wars content in the description. Those links will be below as well. And if you'd like to contact me and interact with me, you can find my Discord in the links below, and you can find my Twitter as well. I'm very active on both, and I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, so don't be shy if you want to reach out. Thanks very much for watching to the end. I very much appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time.